Inuit television came to the Eastern Arctic in 1980. Now it has come to the Western Arctic through ICS, the Inuvialuit Communications Society in Inuvik.
I don't know who that was.
There was a couple around there. No, that's CDC. I don't know what they were doing.
CBC Vancouver?
Yeah.
But ICS is more than just television. It produces a monthly paper for the Inuvialuit communities and is launching a graphic arts department. All this in only 18 months. How did ICS get started? Here's Greg Smith, Executive Director.
Well, it got started on paper about almost 10 years ago when a group of Inuvialuit got together and decided they wanted to form a communication society. But they never managed to get funding, and so the idea sort of dropped away for another 7 or 8 years. And then when I came up to work for COPE 2.5 years ago, I found a lot of information in the files about this organization, and we called a meeting at the COPE annual general meeting to set up a new board. And that new board did the paperwork and got going, elected a president and vice president and secretary-treasurer, and got the society activated. And then it took about another year before ICS got any funding. We have a new program starting, a graphic arts program, and that graphic arts department will take over most of the production of the paper. They will do all of the typesetting, they'll do the layout, the design, and they'll send the paper down to Yellowknife for printing, or to Edmonton or wherever. So the paper, we'll do everything here except the printing of the paper. And what that means is that we can get a story into the paper that happened on Tuesday, put the paper together on Wednesday, send it down to, and have it back on Friday's plane. So we can turn it around very, very quickly.
Every month, over 1,400 copies of Inuvialuit are sent to readers in the Arctic communities and to various societies and libraries in Canada, the United States, and Europe.
When I came here in 1982 as COPE's communications officer, I took over Inuvialuit magazine, which is a magazine that had been published off and on for, I guess, about, well, at least since 1975. So there was something there already. It was a base, and I published 4 editions of that in 1983, and then during the time I was doing that, I was also planning on trying to convert it into a newspaper. People were, although people liked the magazine, there was some frustration because it took so long to produce. The news was old by the time it got out, and it was hard to do advertising. It was very expensive to produce a magazine. We could produce 3 or 4 newspapers for the cost of 1 magazine. So all in all, to try and get the information out more quickly, to attract advertising, to cut our costs, at the same time as we developed a training program in journalism for 4 people, we decided to convert the magazine into a newspaper. And so we did that in November of 1983. And that was the first newspapers were put together by myself and 4 trainees, and so it evolved from that.
Stories are written and photos taken by Inuvialuit staff.
No, that's CDC.
Lunar. What stories are covered in the paper, Dennis?
Stories that will be of interest to Inuvialuit, such as old-time stories, renewable resources, hunting and trapping, and IDC and IRC matters and stuff.
That means that you'd be covering, or you'd be reporting on meetings and conferences as well?
Yes.
Do you have community reporters or informants in some or all of the communities?
Yes, Tuck and Aklavik have community reporters right now, but the other communities we just use informants, as you say.
Some layout is done here too, but Greg Smith says we still can't do the entire job.
The writing, the research, and the photography are done in Inuvik and in the Western Arctic, but the actual production of the paper, including all of the typesetting, the the design of the pages, the layout of the pages is all done in Yellowknife, and the printing is done in Yellowknife. And that means a long delay. It means that we finish our writing, we send everything to Yellowknife, and sometimes it's 3 weeks before we get our paper back from the printer. The news is a little bit old, sometimes mistakes creep in that we can't control. That's going to change over the next couple of months.
But ICS's biggest project is TV production. Its aim is to help the scattered settlements and hamlets of the Western Arctic speak to one another, to help preserve Inuvialuit, promote native culture, and produce programs for children in Inuvialuit. It's a tall order that's taken a lot of planning.
The way we got started was by doing a survey. We interviewed 1 out of every 4 Inuvialuit who are 15 years of age and older, and that told us that people wanted television before they wanted radio, and it told us the kinds of things they wanted to see on television.
The final responsibility for producing Inuvialuit TV programs is in the hands of 9 trainees. Starting their day at 9 in the morning are Harry Maxarak, Willie Stephenson, Topsy Cockney, Walter Goose, Sandra Elias, Ann Kasuk, Rini Airy, Stan Rubin, and Debbie Gordon. In the classroom, trainer Ab Douglas covers writing for print, radio production, interviewing, and TV scripting. Language instruction plays a big part in the training because most of the production is being done in Inuvialuit. This training is carried out by people brought in from the community and by the trainees themselves.
Read us some of that.
And Kasuk, one of the 9 trainees, says television will be a good way for the people to communicate with each other.
Really, I was really interested in how the elder people and how they used to live a long time ago, and I think it would really benefit to the younger generation to know the history of their elders. And I really wanted to get to know the elders, more than I find in this way I'd be able to do that, get to know them and know their backgrounds and how they used to live.
Do you think people will understand this TV more better if they see it?
I think by watching a program on TV, a lot of people get more out of it because they're sitting there, watching TV and they see things happening. So out of a TV program, I think they get quite a bit more than they would on radio, because today, almost in every home you go to, people are watching TV. So, I feel that it'd be a good way to get through to people.
In the control room, studio, and editing suite, the ideas, interviews, and scripts are turned into actual programs. Tom Allen, the assistant trainer, is teaching technical skills needed to produce TV programs. Some will be done in ICS's 2-camera studio and taped for future broadcast.
So are you going to participate in anything?
I'll see what's going on first, and then if there's something.
Let's go in a log song.
Besides studio production, electronic news gathering or E&G crews are taping programs on location in Aklavik, Tuktoyaktuk, Paulatuk, Sax Harbor, and Holman, as well as Inuvik. These programs deal with profiles of various communities, artists, people living off the land, and stories from elders, to name but a few. After videotaping in studio and on location, the finished programs are sent to Toronto for transmission to the north via satellite. ICS's production equipment installed this spring is valued at about $200,000. Where does ICS get its money?
A lot of people have the idea that we're part of the land claims process and that we get our money from land claims. That's not true. We get our funding from different federal government programs. and it's completely independent of COPE, IDC, the regional corporation, or any of the other Inuvialuit organizations.
Final control of ICS rests with the Inuvialuit communities, who are represented by a 6-person board of directors. Each director represents one of the communities. The board is elected at an annual general meeting and meets 4 times a year. The next board will be elected directly by the communities. The present board president is Roy Goose. What role do you see ICS playing in the Inuvialuit community?
The role that I see directly is being sort of a watchdog for our community corporations, for our many corporations, our many boards, hunters and trappers committees, political watchdog, financial watchdog, this sort of thing.
Although ICS has come a long way in a very few months, there is still a lot to be done and new areas of communication to be explored. So where do we go from here?
I think that ICS is in a fantastic position. It's a brand new organization, but in a lot of ways ICS is looked at as a model organization. Because we came along a little bit later than some of the other groups, we've managed to avoid some of the initial growing pains and problems that they've had. We've had problems, everybody has problems, but I think that we've been very fortunate. We've come a long way in a very short time, and I think that people are going to be happy with what happens over the next couple of years. I think they're going to see their own culture and their language and their area and their own people reflected on television. I think the newspaper has gotten a lot better in the last year, and I think it's going to continue to improve. And I think that there are a lot of opportunities for people in communications.